3, 2, 1, go!
Covenant Wars! It's back! Hello, Mr. Finn!
Hello.
I am excited because they've changed so much since we first looked at this. It's kind of scary. A lot of nerfs, not gonna lie, a lot of nerfs, a lot of tweaks, a lot of trying to improve stuff, which means our Covenant Wars that we did in the alpha are now very, very different. And also, Finn, I asked you the other day, has your opinion changed on some of the Covenants that we really, really liked in the alpha compared to now? And you said yes.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the abilities, for sure. They're totally different things now. Some of them.
Yep. I'm the same. I am amazed. And one of the things that's amazed me as well is the introduction of proper add-ons and able to track stuff properly has completely switched my view on some of them that felt very clumsy in the alpha, but now it's like, oh, it's not too bad, actually.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about, I think, and I disagree.
There's a couple. There's
we'll
a
get
couple.
to those.
All right, we're going to whiz through this. Now, guys, some of these things, unfortunately, are fire and forget. We are going to talk about whether or not we find them fun, and whether we think they're interesting, and maybe if they're going to be the best just because of how they work. But if they are, which some of them are, you literally press it on cooldown and then you barely care about it, we're not going to spend much time on it. So if you hear that, it doesn't mean it's necessarily terrible. It just means that it's not interesting or particularly fun. So we're going to get started here with a DK, Mr. Finn.
Sure.
We have to start with Shackle the Unworthy, actually, because Shackle the Unworthy has been altered quite dramatically. It's still very, very boring, but now it does actually spread around. It also does obscene amounts of damage.
Yeah.
It's still pretty dull, though.
It's boring. It's really good, but it's boring.
It's really good. Yeah, it does a ton of damage, 5% less damage dealt to you, but it is just an arcane dot. So enjoy that if you want. Swarming Mist hasn't actually changed that much, and is still my close to favorite. Like, this is my second favorite DK ability, Finn. Yeah. I love the graphical effect of the big red spin. I love the runic power interaction. Helps a lot for Frost and Blood. What did you think of this one?
I really like this one. I think it's the one I like best for DK. If you include like how it functions, it's not the most fun DK one, but I think it's probably the one I would most likely play, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think for the DK, if I had my choice of one to go with, considering they're all equal, I would go Swarming Mist. I think the graphical aspects of it, plus it actually interacts with your character, I like both of those things. Like, popping this and then Bone Storm is really, really nice. Yeah. Or with Breath of Syndragosa, it's awesome. Doesn't play too well with Unholy, but I could sacrifice that. Plus, you get 10% dodge, which is pretty cool. Abomination Slim, the slappy hands. Nerfed. nerfed.
And then kind of buffed a little bit.
Yeah, they've been trying to get this right because it's one of those. It's the most fun DK spell. Would you agree?
Yes, by far.
Yeah, it is the most fun. They have stopped it being able to chain pull things. They didn't want you doing that like we showed in the past, is that you can constantly drag things. It doesn't do that. It only does damage now at certain points once you drag stuff in. It does bonus damage when it drags stuff in. So it still does some passive damage. It has no damage reduction side to it, though, Finn.
No DR. But it does give you, like, stacks of Bone Shield. It gives you Rime for Frost, and it gives you Runic Corruption, I think, for Unholy.
Yeah. All things you don't particularly need.
I mean, they're not amazing. It's something. No. It's an offset of being able to drag people around the arena in PvP, but, yeah. It's not as good as it once was. It still is fun, though. In my opinion.
It's super fun. Like, it's one of those ones I would love to take for a weekend and mess around with. Choosing it practically, not really. Certainly not in the PvE world. Yeah. And now, the important one then, I guess people were waiting for this to be nerfed. It did get massively nerfed, which is Death's Due. Easily, I would say, on par with how boring Shackle the Unworthy is, because it just replaces your Death and Decay. But they added some tasty effects to this to offset the fact that it was nerfed so heavily.
Especially
the scary
for Frost.
one.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The scary one is what's happened with Frost. So it will Scourge Strike more enemies and do more damage. It allows your Heart Strike to do more stuff. The one with Frost, though, is it cleaves your Obliterate, because they've turned it into an extra cleave spell. I feel like this is still going to be the one to go to, because there are so many cleave fights in the game. And Frost two-hander, and it doesn't work right now in the pre-patch because you're missing your two-handed buffs because you get them while you're leveling in the Shadowlands. Two-handed Obliterate hits so goddamn hard, and the fact that Death's Due allows you to cleave it, Finn, this could be pretty scary.
Yeah, it's kind of big. I know they've been making adjustments to two-handed obliterate just because it was obnoxious initially.
Yeah.
So I think on like PTR it hits less than it does on beta, for example. But even still, being able to cleave like your main damage spell while Death Dew's up is kind of nuts. So
yeah, I was talking to the dudes on the DK Discord, and they were like, "Why didn't they just do Frost Strike?" Because that doesn't mean that we're kind of pigeonholed into maybe playing two-handed Frost. It kind of makes things worse this way. I tend to agree. Like, Frost Strike seems to have made more sense because Frost Strike also has no place in the AoE rotation. You can't dump your runic in an AoE fashion. So Frost Strike would have made more sense for what they were going for, but instead they went with the Obliterate. The scaling could get wacky with this thing.
Yeah, it could. Yeah.
Especially, and we've got to compare it to the others, because compared to the others, this feels like it could get real nasty. We'll have to wait and see on that one.
It definitely feels like this scale's better, for sure.
It does. I just hope it's not the best, because it's so dull. It's so dull. Especially if you're playing Blood or Unholy, it's just a different... I mean, the cleave effect is nice, but you don't actually get a new spell. You just get a different colour Death and Decay.
It's pretty nice.
So it is. But for the DK, we both agree, Swarming Mist, more than likely, if we could.
If we could.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to the DH, guys. The Elysian Decree, which hits like a nuclear bomb fell on the floor.
It's insane. Yeah.
But it's also really dull. You just throw it on the floor. I mean, you do get some soul fragments and things, which
You
is
get
nice.
fragments. It's not bad. It works all the time, which I think we chose this last time, just because it functions everywhere.
Yeah.
It hits like a truck. This is like next level damage at the moment. It one-shots packs and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, and they've added a conduit, so it like ripples again.
Yeah.
And it just... if you feel like on your DH when you're playing with Elysian Decree, is you do a trash pack with it and you're just like top of the damage by miles, and the next trash pack you're like mediocre as hell. It's one of those ones that we always bring up when people are talking about 1 or 2% difference. Like Elysian Decree in the right circumstances just does so much damage, especially if you get a couple off, because it's only a 1 minute cooldown.
Yeah.
I would still say though, moving on, Finn, I'd love your opinion on this. Sinful Brand is still the most interesting for me to use. Because Sinful Brand is a 1 minute cooldown, but it also has an interaction with meta that allows, if you use meta, it does not work with demonic though, big sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you pop meta, it will spread it to all the targets, and then it does obscene amounts of damage, and it really feels quite satisfying. I like Sinful Brand.
I like it too. I would have preferred they scaled it down and made it work with demonic, but that would have maybe pigeonholed you into playing demonic all the time, which I get.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does so much damage. It really is only useful every 4 minutes though. So
it still gets hard on its own.
Yeah,
it's still good.
Kind of. Even though it's a 1 minute CD, the only one that actually matters is when meta's up, because you put it on everything.
You see, for me though, that's what makes it kind of something to look forward to. So I have like 3 goes with it where it does decent damage on a priority target. So you've got that big necromancer or whatever, and you throw a Sinful Brand on, you're doing that extra damage. It's not particularly interesting. It's very simple. It's just a dot, right? So it's the same as what you're throwing up with the DK Shackle the Unworthy. But then every 4 minutes you get to blast with it, and that's what gives it that little bit of extra spice for me and makes it a bit fun.
4 minute cooldowns are awful. That's my official.
We'll get there.
It's my official opinion, and that will continue as we go on. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this one. I think it looks good for Demon Hunters because the rest of them are kind of garbage. But yeah, I'm not sure how much fun I would have playing this.
Well, speaking for me though, the next 2, Finn, are a battle for some of the worst abilities in the game.
This next one is the worst one.
Take us through it.
Necrolord Demon Hunter. Yeah. So this still has all the same problems as it had before. So yeah, you commission a duel to the death with a condemned demon. Yeah, basically this demon spawns, he runs towards you. He has way too much HP, especially if you're a tank. Like, you have to focus him to death. 9 times out of 10 the pack dies before he does. And then he leaves a tiny pool on the ground that you have to stand in to increase your haste, and then enemies have to stand in to reduce their damage done to you. But it's very small. It's like poison bomb size. It's bigger than it was when we first tried it. Yeah.
You can no longer have friends attack it. That's been taken out.
Friends can't kill it. That's good. But yeah, I think they've removed...
If it had less health, it'd be fine.
Yeah, they've removed the ability for friends to kill it and not adjusted the HP. That's what it feels like to me, because you actually have to single target it to death, which is kind of
like you said, we tested it in some Mythic Plus dungeons last week when we replayed them all. So we have replayed every single one of the Covenant abilities for this video. And I was playing around with this, and I was on stream. I was like, this thing is so stupid because it just takes so long to die compared to like the trash. Like you said, the trash was dead, and there's the pool on the floor. Or, as he said, it's a pool on the floor. Nearly every dungeon and raid boss in the Shadowlands makes you move regularly. So it's garbage. Like, it's absolute garbage. I hate this ability so much.
The rooms in the first raid are massive, and this AoE is tiny. Rubbish. Never pick this. Ever.
Secondly, based on... I am so glad I recently did a full playthrough of Super Mario Sunshine, because the hunt is based on Super Mario Sunshine. And this is the Night Fae ability. The hunt... I also hate this ability. It's so dumb. Like, it's hilarious in a bad way. You turn into a rocket ship that shoots across the floor and hits things. Now, it does dot things in between you. So if you target the mob at the back of the pack or something like that and you travel through enemies, it does a decent amount of damage. Not a great deal. Nothing you're really going to care about. But it's just feels silly. And they've taken the teleport out of it, Finn. And
the resource gen.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the two bits that were fun. Yeah. It now heals you. The Demon Hunters need a 100-yard dash.
It is funny.
It's hilarious, but like, why though?
I was doing Plaguefall, and there's two mobs before the first boss that are on opposite sides of the boss arena, which is very large. So I pulled one, and then I used this to get to the side of the room, and I thought, this is so stupid. Like, it's funny in a kind of why, and there is a place for that though. Not everything has to be super practical. I'm aware of that, but the effect itself isn't interesting. Like, the movement is funny when you can make advantage of it, but no.
Yeah. It's rubbish. On a 3-minute CD, it's too long as well.
Yeah, it's a 3-minute CD for a dot that ticks on up to 5 enemies. It's also AoE capped, so...
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, for the DH, it is either Sinful Brand or Elysian Decree. I think there's more fun to be had with Sinful Brand compared to... I would never pick the other two if I had the choice, and hopefully they're not overpowered. Elysian Decree, I agree with our first sentiments during the alpha, though, Finn, is that it always works. Like you said with Sinful Brand, you get the big benefit every 4 minutes, assuming you can AoE. But Elysian Decree always works. 1 minute cooldown gives you soul fragments, which are really, really cool. So it probably is still Elysian Decree, although I'd prefer Sinful Brand, personally.
I would go Elysian Decree,
yeah. Let's move on to the Druid. What's first up?
First up for the Druid. Oh, amazing. Such good abilities. Kindred Spirits. What is this thing? So yeah, form a bond with an ally. Every minute you may empower the bond for 10 seconds, and it grants you an effect. So if you're a Guardian, your bonded partner, 40% of the damage they take goes to you, but when you fall below 20% HP, it just cancels. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know why you would want to do that.
Very practical. There's a lot of arguments here, Finn, with people we talk to are like, Kindred Spirits is really good. It is from a practical sense.
Yeah.
It's really dull.
It's very practical.
And exciting.
Yeah.
It's very it's sensible shoes. That's what it is.
It is, yeah.
It's very sensible shoes. You get a nice little buff. You get to replicate some healing. Now, what does bother me, though, Finn, is some of it is based on what the performance of the people you cast it on, which isn't too bad if you got a good friend or whatever. If you have it on your own, you just feel like the loneliest man in the world. Oh, okay. I can prevent 40% of the damage my friends take, but I haven't got any friends. You do feel kind of garbage. It's super practical. Great. Ravenous Frenzy, Fire and Forget. Like, you just use this with Incarnation, Celestial Alignment.
Macro it into something. If I'm totally honest.
That's it. It's on the same cooldown. Gives you haste. Haste is, again, it's very practical. It's fine. Increases your damage, healing, and haste by 2%. That's great. You just macro it in. You forget you even have the spell. End of story. They did nerf the stun on it, because this thing stuns you if you don't keep using spells while you've got it, while you're using this thing. So it's only 15 seconds, but very rare I ever ran into that situation unless I literally stopped to talk to like the stream or something like that. I've never really had it happen without me actually AFKing. But it's fire and forget. Adaptive Swarm, Finn. What is the point in this spell?
This spell's just still as annoying as it was initially. The random bounces are super infuriating. Because it's a 25-yard range, I think it is, the bounce. Yeah, it is. It can bounce all over the place in Raid Room, so you don't really want that. Like, realistically, you just want it to bounce between you and maybe 2 targets. So, yeah, it's just frustrating. It
doesn't even do decent damage, really.
No,
like, even with, like, balance dots, it just doesn't. And the healing's... It's not significant enough for you to care about it. This is fire and forget for me. So a 25-second cooldown, you just throw it out and let it do its thing.
Yeah.
It looks visually cool. I still stand by that.
Yeah, it does. Initially, we thought, like, oh, dot effects 20%, that'll be good for Boomkin. And then Boomkin doesn't even care about dots. So it's like...
it's kind of sad.
It's a little bit sad, right? Maybe it's decent for Feral, but again, you'd probably... If you only cared about the gameplay, you'd probably just take the haste from Ravenous Frenzy.
Yeah, I think so. Like, you stacking up cooldowns is significantly better.
Yeah.
Like, gaining extra damage and haste, or even healing and haste, is just better while you're under the effects of damage increasing cooldowns. So you just get more and more benefit, which puts Ravenous Frenzy just in a more interesting place. Yeah. For this thing, after playing it for like 20 minutes, I was just pressing it whenever it was off cooldown and letting it go its thing.
Yeah, you don't really care about it.
Yeah, you can only control the first jump. That's it. Like, if you're in group environment, you control the first target, and it's only on them for, like, 12 seconds. So it's like, and then it goes off and does its own thing. The sad news, though, Finn, Convoke the Spirits, hammered to the ground.
Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah.
I mean, I loved it in its first iteration, though.
I would say 7th iteration when it actually did stuff.
I just like when it thrashed in midair and then, like, didn't do anything.
You like the very first one.
Very first one, yeah.
Yeah. So they've cut the amount of spells that it does down, and also what that's led to is more often than not. This is still very good for Resto, I want to point out. I did the raid testing on Mythic Kel'Thas using Convoke the Spirits. It was still good. Like, you can get solid performance out of this as Resto. For everything else, though, like, on Guardian, sometimes I still didn't get any Iron First stacks. Like, you kind of rely on this to give you 4 Iron First stacks like it used to. Now, sometimes you get 1, sometimes you get 3. It's just really inconsistent considering you have to stand and channel. And the same goes for Balance and Feral. It's like sometimes it just doesn't seemingly do anything. And you're like, well, what the fuck did I stop playing the game for? Because it's 4-second cast on it.
Yeah. The channel devalues it instantly, in my opinion. But
it just pushes things like Ravenous Frenzy to the top. That's what I don't like. Because this was a really fun spell. It does really silly things. And with the changes, it just kind of pushes the one... Well, I might as well just do the one that stacks with my cooldowns.
Yeah.
Because that always wins, right? Regardless. And it doesn't stop me playing the game. That's my... It's such a shame. Convoke was really cool. When they actually got it working properly, the spell was really fun. But the problem was it was doing too much damage. So Balanced Druids were doing like 16k openers and things.
Yeah, it was blasting at the start.
It was absolutely blasting. It gave you guaranteed crit, and it's gone now. So likelihood for the Druid... I'm probably going to say Ravenous Frenzy, but I really dislike it.
I think
I would be, if I was Resto, I'd be Convoke still.
Yeah, I think Kindred Spirits is going to be really good, but the only fun one realistically is Ravenous Frenzy.
I wouldn't even say it's fun. Practical. Fun.
For that inverted commas, Chris.
Yeah, it's a fun question mark. Let's move on to the Hunter then. So, imagine you got some interesting things to say here.
Yes.
You've been having a lot of fun with your Hunter.
Yeah.
Where do we stand on Resonating Arrow? I've lost a lot of interest in this.
So much interest. Gone.
It's gone. There's no real practical application that I've found for the shooting through walls besides just PvP sometimes.
It's a crit amp.
Yeah, it's just a crit buff. That's all it is. It's a shame. Well, hopefully people will find... I would say people might find a lot more fun in it if you're PvPing, but the ability to shoot through walls on paper sounds awesome. Practical-wise, it basically is the same spell as Wild Spirits is what it feels like to me, where you just throw it down.
Yeah, but less fun.
On to one that I really dislike is Flayed Shot. This spell just bugs the shit out of me. This is purely because on occasion, you can't even utilize the procs, depending on the spec you're playing, and it just gets on my nerves. It's the Flayed Shot is the Venthyr spell where you put a dot on the target, that's fine, and then you have a 15% chance to get kill shot. The proc chance is seemingly really random. I've had it like proc twice back to back at the end where I can't use them if I'm playing like MM or something.
Yeah.
It's not consistent. I would like it on impact and when it ends, so I kind of know when it's coming and I can make good use of it. But it's just random. And sometimes I put it on and it just takes half the duration before it comes out. But you've had a lot of fun with it with the survival, I think?
No.
Oh, God.
This thing sucks. Like, I've had times where I've put it on the target and it's not procced a single kill shot. Like,
yes.
That just is terrible.
Yeah.
Considering it's a 15% chance, I don't know. It would have made so much more sense if they just made it fixed procs, like you say. When they changed the kill shot to be free, that was a big thing, because sometimes it would proc and you just wouldn't have focus, which sucked. So at least that's kind of fixed, but yeah, it's just so inconsistent. I don't like it. Maybe across a long fight, like a 10-minute fight or whatever, you'll get consistent levels of procs, but when you're just like running through dungeons and stuff, it feels terrible.
Yeah, it's far too often you're just throwing it on a target. Because I like I said, if they could make it proc on impact and proc when the dot ends, I would be fine with that. You're running into a pack, you throw out your Flayed Shot, and then you know you're going to press kill shot next. I like that kind of level of consistency, as opposed to, like you said, sometimes you put it on a target, and that target might die within that 20 seconds, right? 20 seconds is a long time for some enemies to stay alive. And you can say, oh, well, you shouldn't use it on that target. It's like, well, some packs just have those kind of enemies in. And you just don't get any procs out of it. It's just like you put a reasonably average, mediocre dot on the target. Whatever. Yeah. So it just has some application uses that make it feel lackluster. Death Chakrams was nerfed, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But not that it was particularly fun anyway. But the animation is really nice. It is fire and forget. You just throw the Death Chakrams out.
Animation's cool. The only interesting part about it is the focus gen. That's the only interesting part.
Yeah, as MM, I actually got some really good usage out of this. Like, instead of making it fire and forget, like I just said, if you can do a couple of, like, an aim shot into Death Chakram, you got a much smoother flow out of your character. Although and because it's on a 45-second cooldown, you got to do that pretty regularly. So, from that aspect, it works pretty well. But I'm not sure whether Finn, and I don't know how you feel about this, it's kind of filling a hole in the spec that shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah, your focus gen is really low. Or it feels really low once you're level 60 with relatively low secondary stats. So all this did was like ease the transition from my hunter having high levels of haste to not having any haste. That was all it was.
Yeah, that's what it felt like to me as well. It's like it feels like it's plugging a hole that shouldn't be there in the first place. Because when I pop Death Chakrams, I kind of want to use it to go ham. Like, I wanted this to be the setup. I'm going to get all this focus generation, so I want to utilize that in some way where I could do some extra stuff with my character, rather than it enabling me to sort of play my character's ordinary rotation a little bit smoother, which is what I felt like I was using.
Yeah,
Wild
exactly.
Spirits. I think you really like this spell.
I love this spell.
I don't. What do you like about it?
Well, I like this spell right now because it has a weird interaction with survival. That's the only real reason. It's fun for AoE. That's the main reason. Although it is target capped, it's kind of not really. So it hits 5 nearby targets every time you or your pet use an ability against a target in the area. But almost every ability procs that 5 target burst. So yeah, it does lots. Especially if you have uncapped AoE like Survival does.
You see, I'm not a bigger fan of Survival as you. You did kind of strong arm me into playing it the other day. And I did have fun, I'm not going to lie. I did enjoy playing it. Mainly because the damage is stupid.
Yeah.
It feels very weird playing an uncapped AoE class in the Shadowlands because you just get to... Your damage is exceptionally high just because you're able to hit more targets than anyone else, which is sort of cheating, I guess.
Yeah. And Wild Spirits, it just enables that. That's all it does. It just buffs that damage. It's amazing.
Yeah, it does. It does look cool, though. Out of all of them, it's easily the most visually impressive. You get this lovely blue circle, these blue lasers that shoot out of the sky. Good change was that your pet now interacts with it, so your kill command and stuff is worth casting. It had a lot of problems earlier on.
Yeah.
It works really well in all scenarios, I will say that. There are lots of fights. I'm thinking about Side and Athreus and things like that, because I spoke with Alex, who also plays a hunter, and he's like, well, maybe we need to go Venthyr for the single target damage. And I was like, Yeah, but look at the bosses. Like, we're doing things like Sidanathrius is going to be the hardest fight, and there are other nearly every other fight leading up to there. The Stone Legion Generals, they're all cleave in one form or another, which kind of pushes us to Death Chakrams or Wild Spirits, in my opinion, and maybe even Resonating Arrow, and not the single target spell. Yeah. In which case, you're probably going Wild Spirits or Death Chakrams if you're playing MM, probably the other way.
And if it's proper cleave, you might as well just go Survival.
I swear the survival dream seems to be coming true, and it was foretold in the scrolls, and it does seem to be happening. What would you choose here? As a Hunter main, I'm still lost. I don't want Flayed Shot, and I really am. I consider the other three to be almost equal in terms of fun.
Yeah, I think I'd actually go Wild Spirits.
On
all of the specs, I think. Just because of the way it interacts now, it's slightly better than the rest. I think
it looks fun as well.
It's pretty. Yeah, it looks really pretty. It's fairly decent in all scenarios. Single target's maybe a little lackluster, but there's not many single target fights, like you said. So
yeah, there just aren't. It's not that reasonable a choice these days. I think I would go Death Chakram or Wild Spirits with a push to Death Chakram if I was MM, just for the focus management. Because MM's doing quite a lot of damage right now, but of course balancing is still underway. Let's go to one of the tragic ones, actually. The Mage. Depending on which spec you like, different covenants. I interviewed Scripe yesterday, brought this up, and he was like, dude, don't. Radiant Spark. I like Radiant Spark a lot more than I previously did. I kind of bitched about it, I think, back in the alpha.
It was super broken in alpha.
It was it was broken. It was being consumed by all kinds of different things, like your snowballs, your pet was chewing it up. That doesn't happen anymore. And it means you can really plan around it. I've been enjoying the hell out of Radiant Spark for actually all three specs. You know when you're about to pop off as Arcane, you know when you're about to go into Iceland's Frenzy as a Frost Mage, and you know when you're going to combust as Fire. I like it. I'm fine with Radiant Spark.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it was fine on Alpha as well. It was just broken. Like your pet consuming it, your mirror images consuming it, Flurry consuming 3 stacks. That was weird. So now that that's not a thing, it's much better. I do like it. It sets up your burst window pretty well. Yeah, I like it. I think it's okay.
I think it's cool. Yeah, you get this little cast almost set up. And now another part of this that's made it a little better in my eyes is they've cut a lot of the GCD bloat out of mages. So you kind of can cast it without being like, oh my god, I've got like 4 other things already ticking, and now I need to stack this on top. Yeah. This made it a lot more interesting for me, because you know when you're doing that big damage, and therefore adding another 40% to that for that last big hit. Very cool. Mirrors of Torment. I can't get my head around why people like this, other than there's a conduit that was giving it crazy damage.
There's a conduit that makes it broken. That's why.
But the spell itself sucks.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
It's great in PvP, so this is conjuring the mirrors to torment the enemy whenever they attack. Mirrors consume to deal damage, but I think this thing is terrible. Like, actual practicality-wise, terrible, regardless if some conduit makes it really strong. Not a fan.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Moving on to Deathborn. We've gone off this spell massively. I really dislike Deathborn now.
Unless you're Arcane. If you're Arcane, this is super fun.
Even then, I prefer Radiant Spark, honestly. It feels stupid, and there's a big cooldown. I don't know why, and maybe it's I can't explain it to you guys in a concise way. The more I've casted myself as this giant skeleton guy, I think this is fucking stupid. I'm just not a fan of it. It really doesn't help. Like, the only time I do have any fun with it is with Arcane. Playing it as Frost and Fire is just not fun at all.
Yeah.
Arcane, you do get to blast the other targets, and there is no doubt that is fun. But I would prefer to play Radiant Spark on a 30-second cooldown rather than Deathborn on a 3-minute cooldown. I don't think the payoff is worth it to be in one particular spec on a 3-minute cooldown to then get this working. Whereas I could do something pretty cool every 30 seconds with the Kyrian one.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think as Arcane it's super fun. I think they still should have added more spells for Fire and Frost to the cleave list, not just Frostbolt and Fireball. It feels so bad going into your combustion as a Deathborn and then just fireballing for cleave. Like, it's terrible.
It is, and the 10% damage increase spell is it doesn't feel rewarding enough for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it's balanced around the fact that you're going to be cleaving, and that cleave, the skew is too big. The delta between effects is too huge, which has put me... If they rebalanced this so that Pyro works with it, Ice Lances worked with it and things, it'd be so much better. Because you would, if you could turn yourself into like an Ice Lance, literally like a fan of Ice Lances, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Or if your Pyros are flying in multiple directions, that would be cool. Right now, the only spell that's cool with it is one you can't even visually see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just doesn't splash on them. That's it.
Exactly. Like, get out of here. Shifting power. What's your opinion on shifting power? Because it's been altered a little bit.
Did Mage have a Night Fae ability? I didn't know. I hate this thing.
It's not good. It's not good.
It's always been awful.
Yeah. I don't know what they're thinking with this thing. They've buffed the range of it. So shifting power is the evocation on your abilities, and I think the math is looking to fire wants to use this.
God.
Yeah, I think so. It's a 45-second cooldown, and it's a channeled spell of 4 seconds. So it's 4 seconds every 45 seconds you can utilize the spell. The range on it on actually damaging enemies is 18 yards. So you have to be really close to use part of the spell. And it reduces the... It's so dumb. Like, I saw somebody try and use it, and they had just given up on using it, like, in melee, and they were just casting it to get the cooldown reduction. So they basically just stopped playing every 40 seconds to channel the ability, so they could then carry on playing. Not a fan.
Yeah, it sucks.
It does suck. Well, what are we picking, then? I'm picking Radiant Spark, easy.
Yeah, probably. Because if I have to play anything other than Arcane Necrolord, it's going to feel bad. So, yeah, Kyrian. But begrudgingly. Yeah.
Begrudgingly, really? See, I find it really fun, but welcome to the Kyrian Brotherhood. Our swole boys will unite. Oh, Monks, you take the lead here, pal, because you've been playing a lot more Monk than I have.
Monk? Yeah, Monk is fun. So the Kyrian ability, Weapons of Order, they changed it a little bit. Essentially, it gives you a mastery increase, which is kind of dull. It resets your Keg Smash for Brewmaster, and then causes your Keg Smash to stack damage, which is fairly decent, because it's basically the only damage you do. And then for Mistweaver, Essence Font has its cooldown reset, and then pulses at the beginning and at the end. This used to be a massive heal. It's not anymore. It's substantially nerfed, because it was just obnoxious. For Windwalker, it got changed pretty substantially. It doesn't reset your Rise and Sun Kick anymore, which is good, because you really wanted it off CD. But your Rise and Sun Kick reduces your chi costs for 5 seconds, and then when you Blackout Kick, it reduces the cooldown of all your other abilities by a second. So, when you have Weapons of Order up as Windwalker, your rotation just increases in speed. Quite substantially, actually.
It feels genuinely like a Bloodlust. It's nice.
Yeah, it's a little mini Bloodlust. It's good. I think it's really nice to use.
Yeah, like you said, the mastery effect is boring, but it does its job. But luckily, it's not just that. It gives you all these extra little things that you need to be aware of if you want to utilize this thing properly.
Yeah, definitely.
You line it up, it's good. Because you are going to pair it up with Storm, Earth, and Fire, so they get the benefit as well. Or even with Serenity. And you can get a lot of stacks. And I'm thinking, I'm sure you are, in the Shadowlands world with some of the Monk legendaries, you can get some really good effects by having your spells on a shorter cooldown and cheaper and able to fire them out fast.
Yep.
You get more chi explosions, you get double Keg Smash Lego, you can stack that up real fast and go for a big burst. I like Weapons of Order a great deal.
Yeah, it works really well for 2 of the 3. For Mistweaver, it doesn't really anymore. But that's what happens when you go in as the massively strong ability, because it'll just get you nerfed.
Yes, it will. Fallen Order.
Fallen Order's so good. Okay, so...
it's so dull.
Opens a portal. It used to be a mirror. That's my one very upsetting part.
F for the mirror.
Rip mirror. Yeah, basically it summons little red monks, and they either come in, they Breath of Fire, they heal you, or they Fist of Fury stuff. Now, it is a 3-minute CD. It is kind of boring. It's fire and forget. But there's little monks chasing around, hitting stuff. It's kind of great. I don't know.
The thing I really like about Fallen Order is the visual aspect. Yeah. That is fun. It has a few bugs with what spawns and what they do. But regardless of that, monks and bugs is no strangers to each other. It is funny. It is funny to see all the little monks.
Yeah,
and they do obscene amounts of damage.
Yes, they do.
They're going to get hammered so hard.
I think so. I think that, well, the problem is, like, this seems to blast single target, and then you have the Night Fae one, which we'll get to later, that's like your AoE option. So you can't really do two of those things efficiently, which is kind of annoying.
No.
But
yes, it is.
Whatever. Yeah, I think it pumps right now. It's probably going to get nerfed, but visual aspect is why you would pick it, I think.
For sure. Bone Dust Brew. I have not much to say here. I played around with it a bit, and I was like, oh, okay, it's like Exploding Keg.
Yeah.
Great.
It's pretty dull.
Yeah, it's... Your abilities have a 35% chance to affect the target a second time. It's not something I can really tell. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You do get to do like bonus healing. You get to get your brews back cooler. So it has some practical application, but it feels like a spell we've had since Mists of Pandaria. That's what it feels like to me, and that's why I'm not a fan of it. It doesn't feel even remotely new.
Yeah, and I don't think you change your playstyle at all when using it. You
just get cooldowns and stuff back. Like,
yeah, you just
it's nice, you know.
Press the same buttons you were pressing before. It's fine. It might actually be really good, but yeah, it's not that fun.
No. But what is fun, and I totally agree with you, and I'm so glad they fixed the spell, is the Feline Stomp.
Yeah.
Actually, I think they struck a really nice balance with this thing. So Feline Stomp is, you obviously crack the ground with the old Night Face special effects. Looks beautiful, even to this day. After playing it for months, it still looks amazing. Does damage, is AoE capped, or does healing, if you're a Mistweaver, obviously. And it could proc, while you're stood in it, it can proc itself again. And you can start drawing pictures. You can do all kinds of stuff with this. Like, it's effective, does a load of damage, looks awesome, keep a track of it, good interaction, like it. Yeah,
it's really good. It seems to be really good for Mistweaver. The Essence Font Bolt actually heals a decent amount. For Windwalker, it does like an additional burst of damage after the first burst that hits hard, really hard. It wasn't AoE capped for like a day, and I got super excited. But no, it is. That was brilliant.
Then they did. Well, to be fair, you did a raid, I think, with it uncapped, and you decimated everybody else in the entire raid.
Yeah, it was really fun. So, yeah, it's still a really cool ability. I really like it. They fixed the little things in it where it was spawning like 2 yards in front of you, so it was missing the guy that was right that you were hitting. Like that sort of stuff's all fixed, which is really good. And yeah, it's just an awesome spell. I really like it. Yeah, it's got the both things for me. One, it's useful and practical, and it looks cool. Like that's what I want out of my current abilities. It's fun to play around with. Every now and again, especially if you're doing a dungeon or some trash that's not overly engaging, you could actually just like piss around with this thing. Yeah. And I've enjoyed doing that as well. Definitely my favorite. That's what I would choose for the monks, unquestionably. Yeah, same. Hey guys, that is unfortunately all we have time for today, because this turned into a marathon of going through all the covenants. So we're going to stop here and do a part 2 where we'll go through the remainder of the classes. So stay tuned for that one.